Hello. I know it's been a little bit since I've sat down and talked, but I wanted to actually have a conversation that I think is important and just kind of wing it. So, here goes nothing. I feel like there is a lot of differing opinions nowadays about what is right and wrong with genders and being gender fluid, being male versus female, sex versus gender. And I think there's a lot of hate in the world and stigma on a lot of things. And I don't fully understand the whole entire scope of everything. I've always, felt my physical sex has been female, but I've always mentally felt like I related more male or masculine or whatever. So I understand feeling different. It's not that I've never changed anything. I've never done anything about it, and I'm not going to, but mentally I've always felt that way. And when I was younger, I even had more proof that it's actually valid, if that makes sense. Like when I was a baby, ultrasounds showed like a male brain. This was a long time ago, so just stuff like that, which doesn't make anybody's story more or less valid, but it made me feel better about myself. But for a long time, I felt like, one, I couldn't tell people how I felt, I couldn't tell people how I thought, and two, I thought that I'd be seen as a freak or judged, and three, I just thought it was me being wrong, me being off, something being just weird about me. And it gets deeper than what I'm personally saying, but I just kept it in for a long time. And I feel like, as much as, yes, I think everybody can take anything to an extreme, can take anything further, it is important to listen, because sometimes, something as simple as they and them pronouns can mean a lot. Yes, I understand a lot of people don't understand it, a lot of people don't get it. I don't get mad at anybody for not understanding it. However, I think we are going in a positive direction with it. I used to feel that it was almost something not fetishized, but it ended up becoming that way, because I would be very dominant with women sexually, and I just mentally would get insulted if I was being perceived in a feminine way in any aspect. And I almost liked the BDSM side of things when I was with a man, and I liked that because it was almost like a punishment in a sense, a very consenting, like, good punishment, but it was almost, doing these things and having a man be the one in control. It was a way to, kind of punish the way I was thinking, because I felt it was wrong. And now I know that it's not wrong, it's just me. And that things aren't black and white. We're all different. I've always felt different and thought different, and even certain things about, like, my bone structure, my shoulders, the way my thumbs bend, apparently, I've heard they're male traits, and I'm a short, $115, 5'3" person, but still, all of that aside, it's still those little details. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's a big deal or anything to most, but to me, noticing those little things helps me to not feel completely lost. And for a long time, it was when I was younger, I would just dress 100% like a boy and kind of embrace that, and then I wasn't obviously getting the attention that I wanted, in a sense, from boys, from girls, from anything, because I was kind of nerdy and geeky and wearing baggy boys' clothes and unsure of myself. So I hid it, and I'd wear stuff like, even like what I'm wearing now, you know. And I think the big thing for me was just, I knew because of my family, because of being raised by my grandparents, because of everything, I would never, ever be okay transitioning, especially now with kids. I never wanted to, not that I never wanted to, but I never started a process, nothing like that. But I always knew I'd be different mentally. I would think differently. And physically, sexually, I would be this way, you know? So, I know it sounds crazy, but for me, Ruby Rose, the actress, she made a couple of videos, and I felt like she got it. Like, she understood what I was feeling. And the way she was just true to herself. She showed her tattoos, she showed her shorter hair, she showed what she was comfortable in, but embraced her body, didn't try to hide it, didn't, you know, she was comfortable in it because she decided to stay that way. She loves women, and she's comfortable, you know, just comfortable having that a feminine body as far as, you know, features. She's beautiful in every way, but she's comfortable dressing in a way that accentuates her features, even though she's masculine mentally, and that gave me a lot of clarity. So I guess this very spur of the moment and random rambling is, it is a lot for a lot of people to take in, all of the different things in the world and how fluid it has become, but sometimes it isn't as black and white as people would think. It's, yes, of course there are men, yes, of course there are women, but there are things that make people different, and it doesn't make you wrong or a freak or bad. We all deserve love the same. We all deserve to be comfortable in our own skin. We all deserve peace. And that was one of the biggest things about being sexually assaulted for me, was I felt emasculated, and I felt violated, and I've been having a really hard time with that lately. Again, it's really been in my head that, you know, somebody physically was taking out their aggression, taking out their issues on me, and then it escalated that far. And that's something that's hard to get through, both because it is such a violating feeling, and especially with the role of the person that I normally am, it was hard for me to grasp. And I've come a long way. I've worked with a lot of good counselors. I had physical therapy for a very long time because of the injuries, and sadly I'm going to need surgery, but it'll be okay for some of the torn shoulder muscle and the nose. But at least cosmetically things look okay right now. It's just the breathing internally and, you know, stuff like that. But that's not the point to this. The point is, it caused me a lot of issues with that too, because I felt like I was being mean. I was degrading myself, and a big part of why I stayed with somebody who was breaking bones and just pummeling me was my own self-fear of, I felt like I should have been able to handle someone hitting me, or maybe I was being a sissy. I was blaming myself because I was scared, and I feel like a lot of people end up getting hurt because of their internal struggles too. It's not their fault. It's not my fault that this happened. But if we could all be more comfortable in our skin, we'd be more comfortable to speak up when something bad is happening. We'd be more comfortable to talk about what is going on when something bad is going on. We wouldn't be so reserved when topics like this come up. And that's why I think it's really important that no matter what, we start to just listen. If we hear somebody is transgender, we listen. If we hear somebody is gender fluid, we listen. Or if we hear somebody's gay, if somebody is a lesbian, if somebody is pansexual or bisexual, we listen. We give them acknowledgement. We do not have to be the same thing. We don't have to agree. We could be polyamorous. You could be whatever you want. They could have they, them pronouns. They could be male, female. It could be something where in public, because it's too hard to explain this to everybody, she works okay for me. I'm fine with that. I've had 2 daughters. For them, I'm fine with that. For the aesthetics, for that concept of it. But in the bedroom, especially with a woman, male pronouns are wonderful. If we just made this a conversation that we could talk about, then when something bad happens, when somebody starts hitting you and then beating you, and then you get sexually assaulted, which is what happened to me, it's not necessarily going to happen to you. But when that happens, you don't speak up, when you are silencing yourself in your own internal struggles. And there's so much hate, and there's so much already stigma towards the LGBTQ community that I just feel like people need to listen. I also think that in general, women have a very bad time of it. There is no reason why, after being brutalized and assaulted and hurt in the most degrading way ever, that women should be, and men, and anybody in between, they should have to subject them so badly to the proving themselves. They basically put the victim on trial, but that doesn't happen with a burglary. That doesn't happen with anything else. It's ridiculous. And I see it not only with women, but with the LGBTQ community, Q+ community, that it's so taboo still, sadly, to just talk. And it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't. I think that just keeping a conversation open is important. Maybe some people will not like me or not want to follow me because of this. That's okay. But I feel like it doesn't change anything about me. I still, my chest is real. I'm still me. It doesn't make anything worse or wrong, or it doesn't change anything. It's just simply how my mind works and how I feel mentally. And maybe if I talk about just how I feel and don't just make it all theoretical, it'll be better. Is that everyone's going to come on here, just make it theoretical and talk about how, we should just be more open-minded to however anybody feels. But that's me not opening up and talking too. So I should talk, and I should start the conversation. I think that everyone deserves love. Everyone deserves compassion. And everybody deserves a chance. I then feel also that there are some wicked, bad people out there that are dangerous, and a lot of times they might not necessarily single out somebody because they're mentally struggling, but a lot of people who are victims of any type of abuse sadly will not get justice or not speak up because they're mentally struggling with their own self. They're not going to defend something else when they can't even really straighten themselves out within themselves. So I wanted to say that it's okay to have your mind for many years and feel 1,000% one way, 1,000%, to feel like you know exactly who you are, and that when you look in the mirror, it's not in any aspect like that. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's okay to say that because of whatever it is in the world, you're not going to change that. You're going to keep it that way. Yeah, that's fine too. But we need to keep the conversation open. And it's okay if you've transitioned and fully, partially transitioned, fully transitioned in the process of it, you're thinking about it. It's okay if you're gay. It's okay if you're a gay man who... I've slept with gay men because they understand my mind, and that's fine too. If you can respect somebody for their actual mental gender, that's wonderful. But it needs to be a more open topic so people alike can find each other and have a community that's resourceful and helpful. I can't just look out in the world and naturally say, hey, that person over there, that's got to be the same thing. It's a lot easier if we're much more open to talking, and someone's got to start the conversation. I feel like we are talking about things a lot more nowadays, but it's not where it should be. A lot of things aren't, but we're working towards a better future, and I think it's a day at a time and a step at a time. So as long as we're doing our best, that's all we can do. I did want to say really quickly on here, to anybody who watched my last video, the one that was just an audio, they tried to revoke it because of that, and I wrote emails, I advocated for myself, and I had people advocating for me as far as my counselor, new and old, and other people who understood my situation, and I have been reinstated. I still have not. They have to get paperwork to the nursing staff, and then everything will be fine. But I wanted to at least be transparent with that too, and tell you guys that it sucks. It's hard to fight for yourself. It's hard to, put your chin up and do the right thing and just get out there and go, because it's hard, but it works. If you know you didn't do something wrong, if you know you were hurt, if you know somebody brutalized you and beat you, you stand up for yourself. If you know, in this case with the clinic, if you know for a fact that you did nothing wrong, you were told what to do and you did it, and it was their mistake, not yours, stand up for it. Don't just back down because they told you that they're putting the blame on you. I know it sucks and it's hard and it's confrontational, but you're worth it. It's you. It's your life. You have to be your own advocate, and it will pay off. You're not always going to win, but at least you tried, and that's really, really, really what matters. And most of the time, you will be the one who comes out on top. You will be the one who gets a victory in the end, because you're fighting for what's right. Don't ever forget to advocate for yourself, because it gets very easy in this world to only want to focus on others. I saw a video the other day of this girl, and it was on TikTok, of all things, and she was crying, and I watched it about a dozen times. It hurt me so bad for her. I hurt for her, because of how she was truly broken. You could just see that she felt defeated, and that is so sad. And she felt so lost, and it, like, through a screen, you could just feel every ounce of her emotion in a short few second clip. And that made me want to really talk about self-advocating and having a voice. I know that it's hard. I know that it's not easy, but having a voice for yourself is important. And a lot of the people who have a voice, who are speaking loudly, are the bad people. The people who are yelling, the people who are making the most ruckus and commotion, are a lot of times those people that do wrong. It's ridiculous. It's been years. It's been 2 years since the day that the person who assaulted me was then out of my life, let's say, as of November 14th. And that's wonderful. That's the best feeling in the world. However, after all of this time, a condition of his bail, because he was remanded, and then a condition of his bail because of COVID, was that he checks into Justice Point. At no point has he ever contested that until right now. The trial is in January. It is November, and now he's trying to have no supervision just for the last little bit of time. Is that not suspicious? In my head, it was to do something bad, to try to scare tactic, to try to hurt somebody, me, or somebody else, because he's hurt other people. But if not that, they could potentially be letting him run, trying to hide him, trying to anything else. And it's the last 2 months. There's no care to protect the victim. And that shows that he has no remorse at all. None. There's no remorse. He knows who he put his hands on. He knows how bad it got. He knows how physical it is. No matter who does anything, and I want to make this very clear, no matter who argues and who yells, no matter what happens in a situation, you do not deserve to be beaten. You don't deserve to have elbows thrown at you, to be kicked in the face. You don't deserve that. And it's shameful. And you have to stand up for yourself. It's horrible, and it sucks, and it's awful, but you have to stand up for yourself, because you know what's right, you know what's real, you know what's true. You know. You just can't. You can't let the bad people be the only voices. And I know it's scary. I know it's scary to be vulnerable, because you're exposing yourself. You're exposing things that you're not secure in. But as I do and you do, and we all work on this together, things can get a lot better. If more people advocate for themselves, then we can advocate for each other. We can find each other, we can help each other, and we can do better as a society. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. I don't care what your beliefs are. we all are human beings. We all matter. Everything matters. As far as creatures, the animals matter. If you ever I've watched, even as I have the reptiles, I've watched snakes just communicate with each other just by looks, by body language. There's a language in all animals. We just don't speak it. And it's incredible. So all of these things deserve respect. All of these things deserve love and compassion and understanding, most importantly. Because if you don't understand something, you can love it all you want, but you could be doing everything to love it in the wrong ways. And that's why I think we need to have this conversation. We need to be open. It just needs to be raw and real. And I might have talked for close to a half hour about nothing, and it might not matter to anybody, but at least it's getting something out there. I feel like it's so important to just talk. I don't want anybody to be a silent, suffering victim when you can be a survivor that actually gets justice and gets help. And nothing is guaranteed, but once you start taking your own life back, it gets a lot better. So I know I look like a hot mess right now because I've been working all night and I'm tired, but just know that someone out there does care, and someone out there wants to make things better. And I know you guys do too. I know that it's hard to look at people and, I'm not fully ready to open up about everything. You don't have to open up about everything either, and it's hard to look at people and trust, especially with how many bad people are out there. But it's about being okay within yourself enough to where talking about these things isn't having to trust somebody. It's being confident that, yeah, my mind's different than my body, but that's okay. And yeah, I've got, a few things about me that are also, more masculine that make me feel better. That's okay. And that's okay to say. I also, at times appreciate the more feminine things about my appearance, because at the very least it makes a lot of things not easier in life by any aspect, but I a lot of times in a kind of reverse way use it as a coping mechanism. So I've learned to find comfort in discomfort with myself. It makes no sense, I know. But just before judging somebody, before hating somebody, remember that if they divide us, they conquer us. So I know it's hard to look at somebody who seems to the more conservative side. It's hard to look at somebody like me, or hard to look at somebody who's very open with being homosexual, and to understand that. And to somebody on the other side of the spectrum, it's hard to look at somebody who seems like they're homophobic and understand. But if we start talking and getting an open conversation going, we as a society can make a lot of change, because then it's not going to be us being divided and conquered. Not everybody's going to understand, not everybody's a good person, but if the good people on all sides of every spectrum find each other and understand, don't have to agree, understand it's valid, that could make a lot of progress. So I hope this gets the conversation going a little bit, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.